reporting of those taxes. Does that make sense? So, like a business, if the business does well, the employee, if you're my employee, if my business does well, I anticipate you coming to me at the end of the year going, hey, I've seen a lot of $100 bills coming through the cash register. How do you feel about me getting an increase in my medical insurance or you know, things of my deferred compensation or whatever? So that's really what I meant to say was, look, if the city gets an increase, we should be able to share in the increase. If the city doesn't get an increase, the city shouldn't have to turn around and worry about paying their labor groups anything because they didn't get an increase. Where do they get it from? Do they have to cut some other services? So I'll wrap my piece up and put it in perspective this way. We have to plan for the future. At the end of the day, you have to plan for the future. And you have some choices to make. The choice is, hey, Measure Z because it's good for the economy and it'll get roads fixed and public library, whatever the projects are that you as citizens want to see. It's an opportunity to do that. There's a case study that's 25 miles east of here on the 215-10 freeway. And I'll pick you up any Friday or Saturday night you'd like, and we'll drive down there at 8 o'clock at night, and we'll get off on 4th Street, Baseline, or any other one, Foothill, and I'll show you what pimps and hookers and graffiti and closed businesses look like, and holes in the ground. We'll put the windows down, you can hear gunfire, and then you pick the corner, I'll drop you off, and I'll come back in 10 minutes, and you tell me, you know, if that's a place you want to live in. Now, I'm not saying that...
You're saying about
San Bernardino, sir, was actually, I mean, I could say it, you know.
Over at San Bernardino, they had a unique thing where the fire department took and put a thing before the voters to get it approved that their salaries were tied to an average pay of other cities that were much more wealthier than San Bernardino. And because it was in the charter, you know, that was one of the things that led to San Bernardino going bankrupt.
There's a lot of things.
So, I mean, in our situation here, this is a very uncomfortable, controversial, dangerous thing to be tying your pay to the revenue flow to the city. Z is a sales tax. One of the 4 things that you talked about was revenue coming to the city in the form of sales tax. So Z is going to be new revenue to the general fund that will increase your pay. And that's why the two...
Sir, regardless of whether Measure Z passes or not, my contract is hinged to sales tax, property tax, utility tax, and the hotel occupancy tax.
Z is the sales tax.
I understand that, but whether it passes or not, my contract is tied to those 4 measurable things. So whether you vote yes or no has no determining factor on what my contract outcome is. It has no determining factor. I'm guaranteed a 0
you're saying
in the next 5 years.
If Z passes, you're not going to get an increase in pay.
If Z passes, then everything increases, and yes, we would get an increase in pay.
Okay, let's make, because it wasn't that clear in the way you were presenting it before.
No, I'm hitched to sales tax.
All right.
Whether Z passes or not, if the city has a sales tax increase, or I should say, if they have an increase in those 4 measurable things, we're going to get 50% of whatever that balanced revenue index is. Whether Measure Z passes or not, my contract is still tied to those 4 measurable things. And if the city gets an increase, we get an increase. If they don't, I get zeros.
I can just say a few words. We don't want to get into a lot of contract negotiations, but I will say, for the council, this was a really good contract. We're used to increasing 2, maybe 3% a year, 1% a year. And we're in competition with other cities because we don't want to lose other officers. So we have to come up with a contract with our police department to make sure it's balanced and we keep our department satisfied and staffed as much as possible. Now, what we like about this is that there's 0. They are fully committed to saying 0. We will not get anything. But again, if we do well, we'll see paved roads. We'll see curbs and gutters improve, we'll see trees improve, we'll see salaries improve, not just with police and fire, but we'll also see other departments' salaries increase. It gives us more flexibility. So in a nutshell, that's why we feel as a council that this was a really good agreement for us, because there's no financial commitment if we have no more money. So
there should be a tie with revenue, new revenue to the city, with their pay. As we saw in Ferguson, Missouri, the police force there was going out and citing people specifically to bring revenue into the city. We don't want to have a situation where our police force says, you know, if we help the city by raising more revenue through citations, it means more pay for us. That's a bad, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that's the kind of situation.
There is no way that we have an increase based on that type of revenue that you're talking about. And Ferguson is a great example. They did take a predatory stance with their community. This community has never been in a predatory, we have never taken a predatory stance with the community in the 20 years I've been here. I will tell you this, when I started here, there was 405 police officers. You're now looking at 352. We put 18 guys out on a Saturday night between the hours of 3 p.m. and 1 in the morning. That's what we put out, 18. That's the minimum number. And we got to bring guys in on overtime to get there. The sad reality is you have to pay to play. If you want to have police officers in the city, firefighters, guys paving roads, any city worker, any employee in the city, you want the benefit of having government to respond to your needs, you have to have the revenue to do that. Right now, we don't have that. I drove a police car here tonight that is 7 years old. It's got 100,000 miles on it. And there is not a police car in the budget currently as it sits right now. When I started here, we got 32 brand new marked police cars every year and 10 unmarked police cars every year. Back in about 2001, that stopped. They were no longer in the general fund. It was used with asset forfeiture to get there. For the lack of a better term, we have robbed Peter to pay Paul for the last 15 years, and we can't do it anymore. It can't be done.
I've seen it in the city council agenda over the last year where there was purchases of police cars from Fritz Ford and from Raceway Ford.
And that's out of asset forfeiture money. And there was one time, I think, in the last 2 years that we bought it with general fund money that was actually plugged into a budget. There was one time in the last 15 years.
The city's not a business. It's not like it's generating profits that should be redistributed to its employees like through some profit sharing program. That's a bad model.
Mr. Russell, let me just add to this, and I think we need to take questions from others as well.
Sure.
You know, I personally, and I've been in government for about 20 years, and I've been in San Francisco, in Oakland, in smaller communities, so I didn't come here with, no experience. I've seen labor negotiations, I've seen salary compensation agreements in many cities, some good, some bad. I find this concept of partnership compensation model genius, because what it does, because of the revenues that we're dealing with, property tax, sales tax, hotel and user's tax, especially with property sales and hotel, it encourages every employee, especially police and fire, to create a safe environment where people will come and spend their tax dollars on sales tax and generate sales tax, as well as move here and buy property and generate property tax. People will only do that if they feel that this community is safe and has quality of life. And every single employee in the city should feel they're contributing to that effort. And as a result, they will do better as the city does it. That's genius.
So you're saying
so let's move on of that discussion, because I think we've danced around that issue for quite a while.
Are there any other questions by anyone?